Hi, and welcome to Logik Talks with Logik.io, where our VP of Marketing Blake Grubbs and our expert guests discuss how Logik.io augments CPQ, enables guided selling, and supports elevated B2B e-commerce experiences. Today, we're chatting with Mike Milburn, founder and CEO of Pimly, a new age PIM about giving services the spotlight they deserve to make tech stacks streamlined. Enjoy.
Welcome to another episode of Logik Talks. We are here with Mike Milburn from Pimly. Mike, thanks for joining us. Mike, just wanted to start off, if you could start by telling us just a little bit about yourself, a little bit about Pimly, a little bit about your background. I think that's a good place to start.
Awesome, Blake. It's so good to be here. We consider you guys family, so it's almost like a family reunion of sorts. So Mike Milburn here, and my career arc kind of goes like this. I started off building call centers when I graduated college, and back then call centers were not that attractive. It wasn't the coolest job on the planet, but there was something really alluring about it. That led me to, at the time, a very disruptive, smallish company that many of you have heard of called Salesforce, and joined Salesforce in 2005 and was part of the team that built the Service Cloud. So that is the customer service and field service operations at Salesforce. It's the largest cloud in the Salesforce portfolio. Spent 15 incredible years working for Mark and team. And kind of a once in a lifetime opportunity. Learned all about customers and partners and success and how to build meaningful companies. After Salesforce, went to a Boston-based company called Salsify, where I was their first president, looked after sales, service, and marketing. And it was there that I really learned about the product information management space and kind of fell in love with the idea and the disruption of creating the product cloud natively on Salesforce. So in a lot of ways, it was a marriage of all my 20 years of professional experiences.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense, and I love the whole idea of the product cloud. So you mentioned kind of your shared background there between Salesforce and Salsify, kind of getting into that PIM and product management space. Tell me a little bit more about kind of what you saw in the market that made you want to start Pimly in the first place. As you know very well, Salsify, there's a bunch of different PIM players in the space. It's somewhat of a crowded space. So what kind of led you to this point?
Yeah, it's a great question, Blake. So, I vividly remember when we were going back to Salesforce and Service Cloud and kind of the disruption that we were ushering in with what customers were asking for. And that's where it really starts, is listening to what customers are asking for. And to go back to the Salesforce analogy, customers were asking for service not just in the call center, they were asking for service in HR and finance and IT and operations. They were sort of asking, why isn't service more important? And so, as I mentioned during the intro, 20 years ago, customer service wasn't that cool. Today, service is everywhere. Service is the last word in SaaS, software as a service. Things like Uber have become a common term to provide service. So that kind of democratization of a piece of technology, I witnessed that and I saw that. And so what I learned about the product information management space was, this is really important information. This is not just the length and width and dimensions or product marketing that comes with the product that enables e-commerce. This is the DNA of the product. This is why it was built and how it was built and how it's going to be used and how it was going to be sold. And so if you compare those things and say, my service background was a perfect background to say, what's the future of product information? And that's what I saw was, every user or every employee in a company is a consumer of product information. If you think about a C-suite and you think about a CEO and a CFO and a head of HR and a head of finance and a head of product, every single one of those C-suites looks or consumes or interacts with a company's products, goods, or services every day. So I saw that. And then I also felt like the convergence of e-commerce and CRM was happening a lot faster. Salesforce built this and e-commerce built this incredible channel tool that they weren't really combining, they weren't really merging. You could talk about commerce, but you weren't talking about commerce and sales, traditional sales, or commerce and service. So it was pattern matching what I'd learned at Salesforce. And then it was also this kind of convergence of both e-commerce and CRM.
Yeah, no, that makes a lot of sense. And I think that idea of the convergence between commerce and CRM is something that we're seeing as well, and we're feeling more and more. And particularly on the B2B side, it feels like that's something that's happening, I think, maybe more rapidly than folks might have expected even a couple of years ago. What's curious kind of what your perspective is on that, and how PIM is continuing to, and how Pimly can continue to help B2B companies who have, increasingly large product portfolios, increasingly complex product portfolios. Curious your perspective on that.
Yeah, I'm glad you asked. So, this is, again, one of the things that I saw in Service Cloud is we were building, designing, implementing, and changing service organizations in some of the leading B2B companies globally, and they cared about service. And at the heart of that service was a product. So when we were designing these call centers and we were adding chat and knowledge base and all these interaction types, it was all around a product. And then when I looked to Salesforce, there was sort of this gap or this white space or this hole on, well, how do you look at the product in Salesforce and how do you interact with the product? And, we're going to talk about Logik a lot in a second, but how do you intersect and how do you configure and customize that product? Almost all of that was missing when we as we were building Salesforce. So I saw that for a decade or more as we built the Service Cloud. And then you kind of think about your personal life. I mean, you step out of this 9-to-5 work environment, and every B2C brand is hyper personalized. Every B2C brand has immediate, fast, and simple and easy. I'm old enough to go back to when Zappos transformed the B2C world by offering immediate, fast care and service. And it's really hard, I think, to go from a B2C world and then walk into a B2B environment and not demand the same customization, personalization, speed. You can't get something after work hours traditionally and then expect your 9-to-5 or your business environment to operate differently. Those worlds are colliding. So, it strikes me that brands, whether B2B, B2C, or B2B2C, the technology is now so powerful that it's able to provide solutions, and we're solving a problem in the industry with giving product information to the global CRM market. Yeah, I think that's well put. And one question I had to tail off of that is particularly around commerce, right? And part of what you mentioned is that, buyers now in B2B, for example, expect that same experience that they get from B2C in B2B. It's frustrating for anyone to go and buy something on Amazon and then go through this like super high touch, complex sales process in B2B, right? So curious as to, on the kind of omni-channel selling commerce side for B2B, how are you seeing that? I guess, or what's your point of view on how B2B buyers are expecting that kind of online buying experience to be like for them when it comes to, discovering the right products for their need, being able to find the right version of their products, and how does PIM and Pimly play into that as well? Yeah, so it's a great question, and it's one that, if I think about my daily calendar, probably spend 4 to 6 hours a day talking with customers and partners about it. Here's what we're seeing in the field. So all these lessons from B2C that have kind of permeated the B2B world, CIOs are asking their tech stack to consolidate. They want to look at more trusted vendors because it's such a big part of their revenue, and it has to do with the selling experience, the expectation experience, the guided selling experience. It also has to do then with the service side of it. So this connected, or Salesforce would say the 360-degree view of the customer, these things are all related. So when you go and search for a product, you're getting information about that product. and then you want to interact with it on either a direct website or distributor or manufacturer. You want to interact with it, you want to play with it, you want to configure it, you want to tear it apart up and down, and you want to be able to look at that. You want to look at user-generated content for that. You want to look at ratings and reviews. You want to look at all these pieces. And then when you consume that product or make a purchase or an acquisition, you expect that company or that brand or that manufacturer and the distributor then to be able to service you. And that experience that you had, that personalization and that customization that you're able to provide on the front end, all the way back to what you're able to do on the service side of it, which again ties nicely back to my background. So, ironically, one of our first deals that we did together between Pimly and Logik was with a global manufacturer and a global brand, and they were manufacturing items and then they were servicing those items in the field. And they just simply had this need and this vision to be able to create a highly customized, highly configurable experience on the B2C and B2B in moments that matter. And then they have to be able to service those. And they're using Logik and Pimly and Salesforce as the platform to do that.
Yeah, absolutely. And just going off of that, just to double click on the kind of the Logik and Pimly partnership now, would love to hear your perspective on why and how Logik and Pimly can work together to provide this kind of next gen commerce experience, right? I think you mentioned some of it right there, but curious your take on that as well.
Yeah, so I mean, it starts with people and it starts with the company's goals and mission first. And so I think the first thing that's fascinating is that our leadership teams have been together in various companies and forums for, I think, going on 2 decades now. And so that amount of trust, that amount of transparency, and that amount of shared vision on growth and customer success, I think that's really hard to replicate. We've all had similar experiences building world-class companies. Then it goes to why e-commerce and why CRM. And let's just assume for a second that we didn't know each other and we weren't able to share this common vision. Well, why did we didn't end up in ERP doing it? We didn't end up in another corner in financials or back office. We ended up because CRM has this incredible footprint of sales and service. And so that's kind of pillar number 2 is the last 10 years that we've all spent have had similar experiences in CRM. So then when you go into it, you go, let's just start with sales. A guided selling experience in B2B or B2C is going to demand hyper personalization and an almost unlimited amount of configuration that Logik.io provides. And the current CRM platforms kind of stopped a couple years ago at sort of some base configuration and some base functionality. What you guys are doing is you're providing those sets of requirements for the modern B2B global company of all shape and sizes across industries. And one of those components that is going to be required in that is going to be product information. And so the neat part is that, when I think of Service Cloud, for instance, the Service Cloud had a nucleus, and then it had all these things that orbit around it, like chat and knowledge, et cetera. And we all came together to build this $7-8 billion industry. Well, the same thing is happening. What Logik is pioneering and Logik.io is pioneering and driving is this incredible personalized experience. And we're just talking about sales right now, this incredible personalization across any channel. And product information is able to be surfaced up at that moment, at that critical moment. And so the speed and agility and time to value mean that now brands can focus on their customers instead of overly investing in kind of, a point in time technology. Then you move over to the service side. And right now, so far, all the firepower or all the energy has gone into the guided selling side. My prediction is that the guided servicing side, maybe by the time this podcast airs or mid-year or certainly Dreamforce time, you're going to hear a lot about guided service experiences. And when you think about the incredible world of service, people are asking for upsell, cross-sell, and they're asking for other goods at that moment. And the same level of configuration, customization and personalization that Logik.io provides on the guided selling side, you're going to see that same application on the guided service side, and Pimly is going to help surface up important components of that. So I really see that CRM wheel living out in real life across our two companies and across our companies.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think you mentioned it earlier, but just that whole, as Salesforce would put it, the customer 360, right? It's all starting to bleed into one another, and all of these different components are going to start to intertwine, and product information is at the center of all of that. So Mike, this has been great. One last question just on the way out here is just about kind of your future vision here for Pimly. Where do you see Pimly fitting in the market, and any last words you want to kind of get out there about your company?
Yeah, so thanks for asking. So, we just got off the Salesforce partner kickoff. We just came back. It was in Phoenix. It was incredible. You saw the energy of an incredible organization that is partner first. I think another thing that Logik and Pimly share together is that we're a partner first organizations, and so the ecosystem of systems integrators that are the trusted advisors to so many brands and manufacturers globally, those are the SIs. And so together we are enabling the next generation of systems integrators to go build, design, and implement these incredible solutions. So I know that we're together at B2B Online in Chicago in early May. I know we're going to be together at Connections, Salesforce Connections, on June 5th in Chicago. We're hosting a partner kickoff, and I think members of Logik are going to be in attendance, giving their vision and giving our interactivity. And this is also too where our extended family comes into play, and you bring Logik and 3Kit and Pimly together, and you're really talking about ushering in the next generation and the convergence of e-commerce and CRM. So I got my travel plans. I'm back. We're back on the airplane. We're back visiting customers. We're back at events. We're back with partners, and can't wait to see you guys in the field.
Yeah, absolutely. We'll be on the road together a lot, I think, in the next few months, which is super exciting. So thank you again, Mike. Really excited about the stuff we got coming up together, and appreciate you joining here.
Thank you, sir.